This is Help, I'm a Contractor podcast. Hi, I'm Seth Lewis. I am a blue-collar business coach. Finally, someone that understands what contractors actually go through. My goal and vision is to connect business owners with knowledge while tackling some of the industry's toughest challenges. Please subscribe to my content and let's support each other to create awareness for our industry. Check out what I have going on at www.bluecollarbusinesscoach.net. Check out my book that has helped business owners across the country change their business and their life. But for now, it's time for the show. Let's get it. Today on the show, I am excited. I have Andrew Zeller, who's a third-generation construction professional with around 18 years of experience in the industry. Primarily working in the trades, he's worked on everything from design through coordination to field layout, and he's served in various roles across several companies. Today, Andy is now the Director of Construction Technology and offers his services and expertise as a technology consultant to other organizations when asked. He's the founder of Precision Turnkey Solutions, where he talks and teaches about technology in the construction industry. So let's bring him on. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Seth. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you on. Big background, been in construction, your whole life. What's been, what do you like about it, or what's the passion that you have?
There's so much. Growing up, everybody else was, coloring Superman and Batman and all that kind of stuff. My dad would bring home blueprints and highlighters and colored pencils, and that was my escape. Like you said, I've done quite a bit of stuff, everything from residential through massive industrial, pharmaceutical type projects, and literally everything in between. The thing that really gets me going is the fact that the projects that we build are actually building our communities, right? It's something that I'm sure everybody in construction, you can't take a family road trip without pointing out, I worked on that. So that's part of it. But the other thing is, a lot of the projects that I've done are, say, hospitals and medical buildings. So the projects that I work on, it's not uncommon for those buildings to turn around and try and save somebody's life. So, it's very rewarding in that aspect. And that's really the passion behind quite a bit of it. So.
Yeah, it's pretty special when you can drive by stuff. I mean, everybody in construction, or if you built anything, can relate to that concept of, I built that. And it's usually, obviously, talking to your family or friends or spouse or whatever it may be. There's just a pride behind it. So, everybody can relate to that feeling. When you look at the different levels, I mean, you said, industrial to small scale. Is there any common theme across everything that you've seen?
As far as construction as a general, as an industry, yeah, I mean, it really, depending on how you want to look at it, there's constants from every single project. And on that same token, you can have two identical apartment buildings right next door to each other, and they're going to be completely different. So it really depends on what exactly you're looking at. As far as from a technology standpoint, the one thing I can say is that almost every single project can benefit from using modern technology in some way, shape, or form. But again, that's kind of on a case-by-case basis as far as what that actually looks like.
What do you see some of the differences in these different projects? So, again, just trying to paint the picture, somebody that's had experience in different areas from the small to the large scale, just maybe share a little bit about some of the differences at each one, starting maybe with small or large, whatever you want to start with, and just kind of what projects entail.
I think a lot of the bigger differences between projects, between different project styles, is what exactly are what some people consider the fine details, right? Everybody's heard the saying, the devil's in the details. For a lot of the projects that I work on right now, that could be, okay, well, how many bends are in that 18-inch pipe? In residential, it's okay, well, is that drywall joint really the best that, it could be. So I think that's probably the biggest difference as far as what each project really needs to focus on. Again, everybody wants a quality product. If I hand you a check for X amount of dollars for a specific building, as an owner, I would expect that building to be put up the way that I would expect it and be able to get some sort of ROI on it and all that kind of stuff. But as far as differences, I mean, to me, it's kind of, I guess, not necessarily common knowledge, but it's a little bit more obvious, heavy steel construction versus post-tension concrete versus wood frame versus steel studs. It's, every project, of course, has its challenges, and it's really a question of, okay, what are those specific challenges that we're going to come across?
When you think of, let's say, a smaller contractor that has a picky homeowner, but the project's only, $50,000 or $100,000 or whatever it may be. Then you look at these large scale commercials that are, 100 million, 500 million, they're large scale projects. For somebody that's listening that has that $25,000, small bathroom remodel, even if you can do that for now, and the customer's a pain, how do you look at that on the construction side of things? And just for a perspective, when somebody's paying 500 million, are they that more hard to work for, difficult? We've all experienced those challenges as contractors. So just give me some insight to that.
So I guess you're talking about, $500 million projects. When you're dealing on projects that size, you're still going to have your nuances. Question of, what are they really focusing on? The kicker with that is they're typically dealing with a lot more of, say, code compliance or AHJ compliance. They're dealing with massive, say, pharmaceutical or process piping systems. So you better have your T's crossed and your I's dotted, right? When it comes to knowing exactly what you're installing, why you're installing it that way, the commissioning systems, and the process associated with that, the as-built, the startup, it's very in-depth on a lot of that kind of stuff, right? They may not care if that shade of paint is off just a little bit or how the light shines through that specific window like a homeowner would. But with that being said, I'll be honest, some of the, not to knock on anybody in particular, but some of the worst, homeowner renovations and builds that I've ever been a part of are people who are in the construction industry. It's one of those things where we know what we want, we know what we can have. It's really a question of, how much time and money is associated with that kind of stuff. But, the homeowner, they come home, I guess, what's the best way to put this? So when you put up a large industrial facility, right? We're dealing with people who come to work. Those facilities are up 24/7. They are there to produce an ROI, right? The owner says, okay, I'm going to put in $100 million now. I expect $100 million to be paid back to me in increased revenue over the course of, say, 4 years, right? Whatever their numbers come out to be. A homeowner, on the other hand, they look at it from the perspective of, you know what? I go to work. I make X amount of dollars every day. I work my butt off. When I come home, I want to be comfortable. I don't want to have to worry about, I want it to be a nice, soothing environment. I want it to be, convenient for me to find my food to go make my dinner. And I want my family to be happy and comfortable and, all that kind of stuff. So, even when you start getting into the insurance logistics on things, what are the different insurance companies looking for? Are you trying to make sure that the house doesn't burn down because the electrical is in compliance? Or are you wanting to make sure that, 100,000 people aren't going to die because the pills that you just made are contaminated in some way, right? So yeah, there's definitely differences in that aspect. Again, it's just one of those things where you kind of have to look at it almost on a case by case basis and say, what do we have to do to try and make this person happy? In all honesty, the customers that I've dealt with that are difficult in that aspect, yeah, you go home every day And honestly, you're still getting phone calls at 9, 10 o'clock at night. You want to pull your hair out. But in all honesty, those are some of the funnest jobs for me. Because at the end of the day, that A, you're learning a lot. B, they're really holding your feet to the fire to make sure that you're putting out your A game, right? When you're in construction, especially in renovations, you're a problem solver. Your job is to come in and give somebody that was something that they want, that they have no idea how to get it done themselves. Or if they do have an idea, they just don't have the means, whether it be time, money, resources, whatever. Right. So it's up to you to make sure that that person is happy, whether that be commercial or residential.
Yeah, I like that when you think of as having to solve that problem for the customer, in the sense of they're holding your feet to the fire, they're making you better. Because I think a lot of times, when you have a difficult customer, you have a tendency to either maybe fight back or kind of avoid it, or just it's something that you don't want to deal with. But I like the way that you put that, where you lean into it, that they're trying to make you better, or you're taking it as a challenge to make yourself better. And there's maybe something that they didn't understand or something. So I think that's a great way to look at it. And I would encourage other business owners to do that when you come up with that difficult customer, because at the end of the day, that's the reality, whether it's commercial, residential, it's just, how are you going to handle that situation? So I really like the way that you put that there, and, something to work on.
I mean, let's be honest, on projects like that, those usually, and we've all been a part of them, where those are the projects that 10 years down the road, we still reminisce and, some people may say complain about it, but it's like, those are the ones that we remember. And we remember that one thing did that to us, and we're never doing that again, So yeah, I really enjoy looking at it that way.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. So when you think about technology, obviously you're a tech guy in construction. Where is construction missing tech? What's the first thing when you think about construction and technology? Where does it need to go first? Like, what's missing in it? What's the first thing that pops to your mind?
That again, and I know I sound like a broken record, it's really a case by case basis, or at least excuse me, almost like a sub industry kind of deal. What genre project are you working on? Now, with that being said, I want to preface this with the fact that my job, whether it's my day job, side job, whatever, it doesn't matter. My job is to come in and increase efficiency, safety, and quality on projects through the use of technology, right? Now that's pretty broad, the way that that's worded. Now, with that being said, if I cannot do that on a project, I have no justification for employment, right? There's no reason for me to be a part of that job. I will be the first to say also, this job should not, like, you guys are doing everything you need to do. There's no need to have me on there, right? I don't care how big or how small a project is. I don't want to say never, but it's going to be, I honestly don't see it happening in my lifetime where we get away from paper on job sites. There's always going to be a place for a tape measure, a pencil, and a piece of paper. And depending on how you want to look at it, again, even those are forms of technology, right? Before a tape measure, I don't even know what they used, strings and arm lengths and whatever. Same thing with pencils and all that. As far as residential goes, I would say one of the biggest things that people can get more involved with is just record keeping. Take pictures of job sites as you go around. There's, a phone, right, is $1,200 now, right? When you go out and go buy a brand new iPhone, whatever, I don't even know. Mine's 3 years old now, but it still takes great pictures. And the saying that picture is worth 1,000 words is definitely useful in construction, right? You'd be surprised, even the 360 cameras that are out there now. You walk out there with a monopod. I've seen guys walk around with them duct taped to their hard hats. You walk every 10 feet and you take a 360 degree photo. You do that once a week. You'd be surprised how many liability issues and accountability issues are solved simply by having that photographic evidence there. Oh no, we put in those outlets. You sure? Because it's not in any of the pictures. And I'll be honest, I think that goes for quite a few projects, not just residential. Just general record keeping is great. Even from a commercial and industrial standpoint, it's very common for red lines, right? The way that red lines are supposed to be done is, hey, I had to move this pipe 12 inches or onto the other side of this wall or whatever. You really should move it, go into the trailer or your plans and mark, yeah, I moved it there, right? How often does that actually get done? And how often is it more like, oh, shoot, these red lines were due 3 weeks ago. I should probably take 20 minutes and mark up everything on this $300 million job. Everything that potentially could have changed on this project, I'm going to remember, 3 years down the road. So, with that aspect, again, that's where honestly progress laser scanning, and I'm sure we can talk about that more. Just the 360 cameras, the just general record keeping Procore, in my opinion, is great for that kind of stuff. There's plenty of other services out there that I know of, that have, daily progress reports or, photo sections or whatever. Everybody's kind of different in that aspect. So again, I think that's probably the biggest thing. With that being said, I know that there's a lot of projects out there that, in my opinion, kind of go overboard with some of that stuff. Do you really need to know when I cut the straps off of that pipe on the pallet out, a quarter mile away from site? Yeah, it helps. Again, you're increasing the accountability on certain things, but it's kind of that balance of pros versus cons, right? From a GC standpoint, I'm sure they love to see a lot of that information. However, you're kind of naive if you think that a subcontractor is not charging you for having someone to take the time to do that, right?
Thanks for listening to the show. I specialize in working with contractors and service business owners just like you. If you are your business and you're looking to do less, not more, if you have a great product or service but deals aren't closing the way that you want, maybe you've grown so much and operationally it's been a mess. Maybe it's gaining back more time, better organization, and reducing stress. There's a better way to running your business. It's on you to take the first step. It's time. I can help. Go to www.bluecollarbusinesscoach.net and let's start by mapping out your current business versus what you want.
So there's kind of that risk reward or the pros and cons balance. You got to play with some of that stuff. Some of the other big ones that I'm seeing out there now, and honestly, I've been doing this for 7-8 years specifically, is prefabrication. It's more and more, especially the larger projects. I believe they either just got it done or they're getting ready to wrap it up. There is I believe it's a Hyatt or a Marriott in New York City area, that they 100% prefabbed offsite and actually shipped it in. I believe it was from Sweden. And they literally craned it off the boat, dropped the pieces in place, and this thing's operational as far as I'm aware. Excellent amount of coordination. Now, don't get me wrong. It's when you say that you can put up a 10-story building in 2 weeks, that's not exactly true. There's a lot of pre-planning that goes on. You may have guys on site for 2 weeks. You're not seeing the 3 years of coordination and planning and offsite fabrication that's going on offsite, somewhere else in the world, to get that happening. So, those are a couple of the big trends. Obviously, like I said, the record keeping, the prefabrication. I know a lot of projects would benefit greatly, especially on the AE side, the initial field coordination for laser scanning. I could go on and on and on for days about laser scanning. I'll be honest, that's kind of one of my true passions with all this, is just the reality capture side of things. It's amazing tech. It's not for everything, but it can definitely save your backside more than once. So those are probably the big three.
When you look at that, the reality capture and some of the laser scanning, I want to just be really clear and make an assumption that, people don't know what that is. So
Yeah.
if you could go from the very fundamental thing of, what it is, how it's used, and what the benefit is.
Yeah. So the way I like to explain it is laser scanning is a reality capture. It literally takes an image of the space with extreme accuracy. Okay. A lot of the scanners that are out there now, you're picking up millions of points a second. So I guess backing up even more, a laser scanner operates similar to a laser tape measure. Okay. Laser shoots out, bounces back. That device records the amount of time that it was out and then translate that into an actual distance. Okay. A laser scanner not only does that, but it also picks up the color of the surface, usually, depending on the laser scanner, of the surface that it bounced off of. It picks up how hard that reflection is coming back. It also does it in a manner that allows it to pick up horizontal as well as vertical angle. So if I go out with the laser tape, right, and I'm just shooting this room, I'm just going to get random dimensions. It may be off half a degree, 5 degrees, 10 degrees. I may not pick that up, right? With a laser scanner, it picks up everything. That one point comes back and it looks like an arbitrary point in space. Okay. But when it actually gets brought into the computer, because it's doing it literally a million times a second, it starts to actually generate this cloud. And then when we bring it into the computer, it actually looks like an image with patterns, say, for pipes and walls and windows and everything. I'll be honest, I'm going to kind of take a break here because I know you're going to edit this. If it helps, I have no problem sending you guys some photos or, whatever, to try and explain some of it a little bit more, because it's kind of complicated to see it without or understand it without actually seeing it. But getting back into it. So once we have that scan, right, it's all line of sight. So then I have to take that laser scanner, pick it up, move it over a little bit. I can't see through walls. I can't see through pipes. I can't see through air handlers, stuff like that. However, once I bring that back into the computer, I can see every nut, bolt, and washer in whatever area I'm in, right? If you come back and you tell me, hey, I need the level of detail on this to just show me where every conduit is so that we know what to demo out or what we need to work around. Okay, not a problem. What a lot of people don't realize is that when I bring that conduit back into the computer with the laser scan, it's also going to bring back every piece of duct, every piece of pipe, every piece of architectural member that's around. So you're not getting just the conduits. You're picking up the entire area, right? So with that being said, a lot of these lasers are also reaching out to 100 to 600 meters or more, right? So that equates to right around 350 feet minimum that a lot of these are shooting. I think the lowest one that I've used lately is 80 meters, which I think is right around 300 feet. So, the length of a football field. Excuse me. So with that being said, that accuracy is similar to that of a laser tape. So I like to say at 300 feet, I could be plus or minus a quarter of an inch. There's different variables that go into, the quality of that data, but it's the opportunity is there. Once I have all that scan data, I can bring it back in and we say that's actually a reality capture. Okay. You have design, coordination, your schematic design, your construction documents, all this and that. And you keep working your way through that system. Well, then once at the end of a project, you should end up with as-builts, right? Like we discussed earlier, your as-builts may be accurate. They may not. It really depends on the attitude of the foreman that day. From there, we actually go beyond one step and we call it as is modeling, not as built, but as is. From that model, I know exactly where that conduit is. I know exactly where that pipe is. I know exactly where every hanger is or piece of unistrut, So from there, that allows me to really go through and fine tune this design to know, yeah, is that actually going to fit? Do I need to take out this wall? Maybe I can prefab it. Maybe I can go through and cut down what would normally take a 2-week shutdown in a paper mill I might be able to get it done literally in 6 hours because I can prefab all the stuff and literally just set it in place and walk away. So, it opens up a lot of opportunities in that aspect, and the amount of data that you get out of it is astronomical. There has not been a project that I've been a part of where I even touch 1% of the data that I'm able to bring in from one of these scans, just because there's just so much there that, you just don't need, but you have it, right? How many times have you gone out to a job site and said, yeah, I need this dimension, and that dimension. And you get back and you're like, shoot, I really should have grabbed that one. Well, by the way, that job site's 6 hours away. So it's not like you can just drive out there, or walk out to the shop. Laser scanner, if it sees it, it picks it up. So once you have all that, you can come back. I've literally saved hundreds of thousands of dollars for that exact reason, because the scanner was picking up more than what it actually needed to. So well worth it in my mind. If you have the projects to justify it, get it. Any mechanical contractor, most electrical contractors, in the commercial world, absolutely. Residential, there's still a use for it if you have one available. Probably not cost effective to start jumping into it, I'll be honest with you.
So in your role with what you do, is that something that you do with like firms? So like if somebody would say, hey, I'd like to have this area scanned or this project scanned, is that when you talk about the technology, is that what you do for these people? And then what type of organizations or maybe size? I mean, I know you said commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Should people be doing this, or when does it become a real value?
So that again is a loaded question. A lot more projects over the past 5 to 10 years. Used to be every once in a while you would see BIM or VDC or coordination in a spec. Now there's, at least the ones that come through my office by day, it's honestly probably at least 10% of the projects come through and it's required on a project. They may be a little bit more detailed, they may be a little bit less detailed, but there's some aspect of technology, whether it be coordination or scanning or whatever, that the AE firm or the owner of the GC is looking for. So with that being said, number one, take a look at the projects that you're working on, right? If it's not, trying to think of really the best ROI. Again, it depends on the project and the company workflow of the kind of projects you're looking at. With that being said, though, I would say, honestly, if you're dealing with projects $1 million or more worth of your size scope, especially in the mechanical trades, definitely start looking into it. A lot of the projects that we deal with are anywhere from $1 million to $50 million, mechanical scope. From an overall project, we're dealing with anywhere from $1 million to, well over 300 million. I've worked on jobs that are into the billions, and, so there it's a little bit less of a no brainer to just say, yeah, we're going to do it here. One mistake there adds a couple of zeros onto the end of that check if there's a change order. So, it's, as far as firms saying, hey, we need to use this, or do we not need to use this? Again, it's really on a job by job basis. If you see, the way I like to say it is that technology, and especially the BIM and VDC coordination process, minimizes the risk for change orders, right? I always call it the 10, 50, 100 rule. If you're going through a project, and let's say you're trying to run a pipe through a mechanical room, it will cost, if we notice in the BIM process that pipe is hitting, say, another piece of duct, it's going to cost either me, the pipe guy, or the duct guy, $10 worth of labor to basically move that pipe out of the way or move that duct out of the way. If we catch that issue when the stuff is in the shop getting prefabricated, it's going to cost us about 50. If we find it in the field, then you already have a pipe coming here and a duct coming here, and they're 6 inches away from each other, it's going to be $100 minimum, because you're going to have somebody, cut stuff back. You're ordering extra materials on rush. You got extra hangers. You're redoing work that's already been done. So, obviously those are more of a ratio, but we found it's actually pretty accurate to be about 10, 50, 100 on a lot of those issues.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful when you're able to model it out or catch things ahead of time. And that really differentiates you from other firms. So, I mean, this can really be a value add. And one of the things that I encourage business owners and people in the construction or service businesses to do is really look for ways to differentiate yourself and then be able to sell that as value add. How can you educate the customer that this is something that ultimately can save you more? It's the old saying of, this contractor is a little bit more expensive, but yeah, they saved 100 change orders or 1,000 change orders, which ended up costing you another, $300,000. I mean, that's a big deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one thing. Having our department in-house, excuse me, having the ability to do a lot of stuff ourselves, working with the relationships that we have with GCs and CMs and other contractors, we're able to go in and really show, even pre-bidding, we can kind of come in with a conceptual design and say, look, we saw the AE's design. We think we might be able to do it a little bit more effectively this way. We think, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but your pumps are going to have less wear on them, or your chiller, is going to be better off in the long run. It's going to be better for maintenance. It's not uncommon. We've actually gone through the last few projects I've been on, actually, without this process. I'm trying to think. Okay, so I just did a casino, big casino expansion, 100,000 square foot, a lot of fun. We had 40, 50 some VAVs, I believe, somewhere in there. For these air handlers, the casino required that all these air handlers be right at ceiling level, which makes sense. They want to be able to have easy access to everything. On the plans, they had these, all these VAVs at ceiling level. Once we went through the BIM process and coordination, we actually flew the owner through the model to validate where all these VAV boxes were, to show them, hey, you might not actually want it here because a guy's going to be up on a ladder and this door is going to swing out and knock somebody off this ladder. Or, do you really want to be working on this VAV when you have food prep right below it? Just because you check off the boxes during the design phase doesn't mean that it's actually going to meet commissioning requirements. And that's another big thing that BIM really brings to the table with a lot of this.
And again, I just want to make sure that we clarify for anybody that's listening and might not be in this space, but when you talk about BIM and showing them these examples, could you just explain a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah. So BIM stands for Building Information Modeling, and VDC stands for Virtual Design and Construction. Both are used interchangeably. There's a lot of buzzwords in the industry right now. Personally, it drives me nuts, but I won't get into that. There's kind of a misnomer in the industry where it's, the BIM model, it's a pretty 3D picture. And that's really not what it is. It is actually a 3D virtual representation of what your building is supposed to look like when it's actually constructed. So you're virtually constructing this building for the sake of not only saving change orders, but also for validating designs, making sure that your airflow is what you actually want it to be. Going through making sure, like that VAV example I just gave you for maintenance access, making sure that everybody is on board for where this, building is going, and where this design is headed prior to actually spending the money on installing all this stuff. Unfortunately, over the years, there's been kind of a change, in my opinion, with AE firms and design where, honestly, it's not just them. There's a lot of this where it's just kind of, push it down the track. Let's let the next guy deal with these issues. I'm sure a lot of people in a lot of these spaces over the last 10 years have noticed, hey, ceiling spaces are getting a lot tighter for whatever reason. I'm sure there's a calculation out there that says, for every inch that we can make the ceiling space smaller, we're going to save $100,000 per square foot or whatever it is. It's making coordination, actual installation, maintenance a lot more difficult. But the kind of the push in, at least on a lot of projects I've been a part of, have been more on the design assist, design build kind of projects where, yep, here's our conceptual design. Here's what we think, we want airflow to go from this air handler to this diffuser and be controlled by this thermostat. Make it work. It's kind of up to the contractors and the means and methods to actually make it fit and get the routing correct and all this and that, meet a lot of the spec requirements. And in all honesty, that's BIM and VDC are really kind of I won't say the only ways to do it, but they're probably by far the most efficient way to get through a lot of these projects at this point.
When you think about the technology and what you do and what is there anything else that you want to highlight in regards to the technology or anything that's you think people should know or be aware of?
The fact that, again, I could go on and on for days on all this. Excuse me. Fortunately or unfortunately, it really is my passion, my obsession for the past, 15 plus years. What I can say is I got into this industry about 15 years ago, truly professionally. But I've been, in apprenticeships and training and this and that for almost 20 years now. Technology is not going away. The attitudes that a lot of guys have in the industry are, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's good to a certain degree. The fact is that these projects are becoming more and more complex when you're dealing with energy codes and, the various different commissioning agents and everything all over the place that are requiring different things now. Technology is something that needs to be embraced. Yes, there's a learning curve. The way that I've always explained it is every time you have a new piece of technology, right? I'm trying to think of a good example that is a little bit more user-friendly. Say you have a new drill attachment, right? You're used to drilling screws into a deck and, being down on your hands and knees and putting these screws into the deck boards to get everything down on the joist. You're used to doing that, and say you can knock out a screw just for sake of argument, once every 10 seconds, right? You get this new drill attachment that you no longer have to bend over to use that drill, right? The first day, it's going to absolutely suck. You're not going to be efficient at all with it. You're going to be learning it. You're going to be fighting with it. However, you're going to eventually get into the groove of using that tool. And, it may be an hour, it may be a day, it may be a week. Nobody really knows until you really start getting into it. However, your efficiency is going to be cut back significantly, or it's going to increase significantly, right? So what used to take you 10 seconds per screw may now take you 4 seconds per screw. But if you never wanted to take the time to learn to use that new tool, you'd still be doing 10 seconds per screw for the rest of your life, right? With that being said, technology, like I said, is not going away. However, there is a lot of buzzwords out there. There's a lot of guys, I don't want to call them, any names or anything like that, but there's a lot of guys out there that are trying to fit in by baffling people with fill in the blank. It's one of those things where, okay, yeah, you might have a new way of doing things, but it's one of those things where don't try to lie just to make yourself look bigger, right? You're going to get the snake oil salesmen that come into your office trying to sell you on these things. Do your research, figure out, what's the rest of the industry doing? Ask yourself, does it really make sense on my specific project? Again, my job is to utilize technology in one way, shape, or form. it's not for every single project. There's more projects that go through our office that I don't touch than I do. And there's a reason for that, because I don't bring enough value to a project. Technology and as a whole doesn't bring value to a project as much as it should or could. I would say for any contractor that's looking to start getting into technology, take baby steps, go buy yourself an iPad, get used to using an iPad or a tablet of some sort that you can, take pictures, record things digitally, get into the habit of, documenting things and, send daily or weekly progress reports to your clients, volunteer information to keep people in the loop. It goes a long, long way, especially in customer service, to be able to do that kind of stuff and to show that, hey, yeah, I can call up John the foreman and he can send me a picture real quick. It's not going to take 3 weeks for him to send me a handwritten invoice to get something taken care of. So that's probably where I would say, to at least get started with a lot of that kind of stuff, what I would want other contractors to know who are either not knowledgeable of it, maybe don't know that it's even out there, or are just generally curious. Start doing some research, see what's out there. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that's coming out. They've got robots out there now that will actually drill for you and run on lasers. It's insane. It may not be cheap, but it's fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. A couple quick fire questions to wrap it up. The construction industry would be better if, first thing that comes to your mind.
Be better if people looked at it as a not us versus them mentality, and more of a we're all in this together mentality. We're all on one team and we all want the owner to have the best possible outcome on a project.
I love that. I can build blank in my sleep.
Good question. I know stuff with technology. I can build a 3D BIM model in my sleep.
Awesome. No, that's good. My biggest challenge is
keeping up with everything that's new out there by far.
Biggest skill.
Not knowing when to shut up. Honestly, probably just having a true passion for what's out there, and trying to understand what's coming around the bend.
Place you want to travel to?
That's a good one. I'm going to say the UP, Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's been many, many moons since I've been up there, and I need to get back sometime soon.
Cool. Ford or Chevy?
Dodge.
Dodge. All right. Yeah.
If I had to pick, I'd say Chevy, but no, I'm a Dodge guy.
All right. Sounds good. Favorite brand of equipment?
Milwaukee.
Popular one.
Oh, yeah.
I want other business owners in construction to know what?
Technology is not going away. Start to not necessarily embrace it, but become aware of it and understand that you're going to have to work with it sooner or later.
Awesome. Great episode, Andrew. Thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate your insights to technology and the construction industry. Really valuable. Really appreciate it. So thanks again.
Yeah, not a problem. I appreciate it, Seth. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Like and share with other contractors. Start studying you